Well, we just capped off the busiest month in marriage equality history, and it's looking like November is going to be just as busy. Two judges in the Sixth Circuit ruled last week against marriage equality, which sets us up for a Supreme Court ruling sometime in the coming months. And no sooner did the Sixth Circuit rule than a judge in West Virginia issued a ruling of his own explaining why they're wrong. Plus, judges overturned marriage bans in Kansas and Missouri with some complicated rules about who can get married and when. For the American Foundation for Equal Rights, I'm Matt Baum, and welcome to Marriage News Watch for November 10th, 2014. There is a lot to talk about this week, but first let's take a quick look back at how far we came last month. On October 6th, the U.S. Supreme Court denied cert in cases from 3 states, and marriage started in Utah, Oklahoma, and Virginia. The next day, marriage started in Colorado and Indiana, and the Ninth Circuit overturned marriage bans in Nevada and Idaho. On October 10th, marriage started in West Virginia and North Carolina, then Arizona on October 16th, and Alaska on the 17th. Marriage started in Wyoming on the 21st, the same day that we had our one setback for the month in Puerto Rico, which is now on appeal to the First Circuit. That's 12 states, 57 million people, and it all happened in 1 month. November's already looking pretty busy too. Last week, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld marriage bans in a whole bunch of states. It's a complicated and very long ruling, but essentially the court just repackaged the same anti-gay arguments that our opponents made. They also ruled that courts should step back from marriage and let voters and politicians determine whether anti-gay marriage bans are constitutional. This is obviously a weird position for courts to take, and the very next day a judge in West Virginia issued a contradictory ruling. Judge Robert C. Chambers upheld the overturning of West Virginia's marriage ban and added that the role of the judiciary is to judge whether laws are constitutional. The Sixth Circuit plaintiffs have already announced their plans to petition the U.S. Supreme Court for review. This is the first time that an appellate court has upheld a marriage ban, which means the U.S. Supreme Court is highly likely to take up at least one of these Sixth Circuit cases. Of course, highly likely doesn't mean that they will. If the U.S. Supreme Court really doesn't want to take any of these cases, they could deny cert and let the decision stand, effectively allowing each circuit to set its own rules on marriage. That would leave marriage bans in place across the Sixth Circuit until they could be overturned by politicians or voters, which could take years. But that's just one setback. We've also had several victories in the last week. In Kansas, a federal judge overturned that state's marriage ban, ruling that it's unconstitutional. The judge's ruling is scheduled to take effect on Tuesday of this week. The state has asked for more time for an appeal, but their chances of prevailing at this point are pretty slim. Officials plan to request an en-banc review from the 10th Circuit, but the Supreme Court has already denied cert in very similar cases elsewhere in the 10th Circuit, so at this point they're pretty unlikely to get a rehearing. This week saw 2 separate wins in Missouri. On Wednesday, a state court ruled against the state's marriage ban. It's a complicated decision, and for now it only applies to couples in St. Louis. So couples in St. Louis can get married right away, but the rest of the state will have to wait. But maybe not for too much longer. On Friday, a federal judge ruled in a separate case that the state's marriage ban is unconstitutional statewide. That decision is now on hold pending appeal. We're also expecting a ruling any day now in South Carolina, so there's likely to be more big news coming very soon. Subscribe here on YouTube to stay up to date on all those cases. For the American Foundation for Equal Rights, I'm Matt Baum. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.